All right. Letter number 10, by the grace of God, 9 Sivan 5711, 1951, Brooklyn. Greetings and blessings. Your letter of 25 ER reached me just now. So this is about 2 weeks later. You no doubt have long since received the booklet and the sikha, the talk, together with my letter. And at auspicious times, so the letter was a letter that accompanied the sikha, the talk, the published talk. And at auspicious times, I mention your name and your wife's name at the holy resting place of my revered father-in-law with reference to your needs. As I wrote to you long ago, I have one thing to say. I do not understand your bitterness and melancholy at all. Since even the superintendent of a well is appointed in heaven. So if the superintendent of the well is appointed by heaven, then surely whatever it is that the individual is dealing with, which we'll elaborate on in a moment, is certainly orchestrated from above. It is certainly obvious that the rabbi of a Jewish community should be aware of the responsibility that rests upon him. It is even more obvious that if notions such as those of which you write bring you to bitterness and melancholy, they certainly stem from the opposite side, or to borrow the phrase of my revered father-in-law, that smart little guy. Okay, so let's explain what this means. If we take the facts on the ground, which is that number one, the roles, the positions that people have in life are orchestrated from above, so that the fact that the individual is a rabbi of a community is by divine decree, then that means that there are responsibilities that the individual has being a rabbi, and that those responsibilities come from heaven. So if one is bitter and melancholy, that means that they're not assuming their responsibilities effectively. It means that they are not showing up as God would want them to. So therefore, where is this bitterness and melancholy coming from? It must be coming from the opposite side, the evil inclination, or if you look in number 73, the footnote in Yiddish is called dem Klugenke, the smart one. In English, we call it a smart ASS, basically. So that's basically, it's not coming from a good place. Accordingly, every time and every moment that you think such thoughts, these are thoughts that come from the chambers of the opposite side. In Hebrew or in Aramaic, it's called Sitra Achra. And in the book of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that Sitra Achra is anything that is not godly. On God's side, there's humility and recognition of the presence of Hashem. When there is a lack of consciousness of the presence of Hashem, that's called the opposite side. And concerning a thought of this kind, it is written that as soon as it rises there into the mind, one thrusts it aside with both hands and averts his mind from it and refuses to accept it. This is a very important principle in how we deal with negativity. See, once negativity comes in, once negativity creeps in, it's always more difficult to eliminate it. So the key is that as soon as it arises, we push it away. There's a notion today that you're not supposed to suppress things, right? Because if you suppress them, then they stay inside and they create ulcers and stuff like that. Emotional ulcers and so on. But here he's talking about ideas that are not holy ideas that are distracting from godliness, from holiness, from a recognition of the presence of Hashem. Those things that come into mind that say, hey, maybe you're not so good, maybe you're not so worthy, all that stuff that comes up, we immediately push it away. We don't even give it any substance. So because if we do that, then we prevent it from actually settling in the first place, and then avoiding the need to have to deal with it afterwards. Now, this is speaking for every man. For the rank of Beinoni is one that is attainable by every man, and every man should strive after it. So the idea here is like this. Let's explain what this means a little bit. So in the book of Tanya, the foremost book of Chabad philosophy, authored by the Alter Rebbe, the first of the Chabad Rebbes, there is a principle there, the distinction between the tzaddik, the Beinoni, and the Rasha. The tzaddik is the righteous one, who the Alter Rebbe says has no evil inclination. The Rasha, the wicked one, has an evil inclination and is constantly engaged with the evil inclination. The Beinoni, the word Beinoni means the middle one, or the ordinary man, the ordinary individual. The Alter Rebbe tells us is a level that everybody can achieve and everybody should strive for. So what is this level? This level is one who has an inner struggle, but has the capacity not to ever give in to the inner struggle. In other words, in using modern language, validate your feelings, validate your emotions, but don't let your emotions define and dictate how you actually show up. Maybe this is a little paradoxical, but validate your emotions, but don't let your emotions dictate how you feel. Right? Just because you have this feeling of melancholy that bubbles up, we have the capacity to say, well, I may have this notion of melancholy, but I'm not going to nurture it. I'm not going to feed it. I'm going to push it away. I'm going to move it away. Push it away with two hands. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm pushing it away. Now, in the parentheses, the Alter Rebbe poses a challenge, and that is that the Beinoni is one who the Alter Rebbe says has never transgressed. But the fact is that most people have at least transgressed once in their life. So the Rebbe they say, well, I'm not a Beinoni because I once sinned. So the Rebbe explains like this: this is not contradicted by the statement in Tanya that the Beinoni has never committed any transgression, whereas chapter 14 states that every person can at any time or hour be a Beinoni. So this seems contradictory. If a person can at any time or hour be a Beinoni, but they may have transgressed once before, and the Beinoni is one who's never transgressed, so how could every man be a Beinoni? The meaning of the former statement is that the Beinoni's present spiritual state is such that transgressing has no place in his life, neither in the future nor in the past. And what the way I understand this is like somebody who's in recovery from addiction. The person who's recovery from addiction is so committed to never using again that in regards to their addiction, they are considered a Beinoni. Meaning they are in a state of being right now where they have never committed a transgression. Their commitment to not using is so strong that they are truly in a place where they are in a place where they have never committed this transgression. It doesn't mean they don't have an inner struggle, but their commitment is so strong. Now, there are those that are in, so to speak, an early recovery, and when you're in early recovery, maybe you're not at the level of a Beinoni, but one can achieve that level. And the Rebbe is saying that above explanation is sufficient for the purpose of this letter and in the context of this letter. From all of the above, it will be clear that I am not at all comfortable to read the letter that you are seeking a different position. So clearly the writer of this letter is looking to get out of his position as a rabbi, and he's using as support that all of these melancholy and negative thoughts. And the Rebbe is saying that the melancholy and negative thoughts are coming from an unholy place, and therefore I'm not willing to entertain that you're actually seeking a different position. And by the way, if you think about this in most of the melancholy thoughts that might bubble up in our lives, we can apply the same principle. We're looking at a particular situation, we're giving value to the melancholy that's rising for us, and because we're giving value to the melancholy that's rising for us, we therefore choose to maybe do something different. But if the melancholy is coming from an unholy place, then the whole conclusion, if the whole premise is not holy, then the conclusion is not holy. So therefore, the Rebbe is saying you ought to remain in your present post and to trust firmly that God will lead you in the path of truth and bless your holy work with success. If doubts on this enter your mind, this does not indicate a doubt as to your ability, but rather a weakness in your trust. So I actually read, I'll read one line from something that I read yesterday that carries the same messaging. Just real quickly here, because I think it's also from the Rebbe. Yeah, here it is. It goes like this. You must be strong in your trust in Hashem that He will place you on the true path and you will succeed in your holy work. In fact, I think this is where it's quoted from. Yeah. Look at that. Oh, these are exactly a quote from this letter. Look at that. I got this in a text and it's in this letter. So, in other words, self-doubt is an illusion. It's an illusion that comes from an unholy place. If doubts on this enter your mind, this does not indicate a doubt as to your ability, but a weakness in your trust. So how do you remedy your trust? How do you remedy the weakness in your trust? So the remedy for this is to study Shar HaBitachon in Chavas Halavava. So this is a medieval classic written by Rabbeinu Bachaya. And it's very interesting in general. In Chabad practice, we focus on all of the classic texts that come from Mishnah, Talmud, and so on. And we generally, when it comes to personal development, we generally focus on the works of Chassidus, on Chassidic texts. One significant deviation from this is this text, which is what is more classically known as ethical works, the Chavas Halavavos, written by the great scholar Rabbeinu Bachaya. And the Rebbe would often, one of the sections of his masterpiece, his magnum opus, Chavas Halavavos, is Shar HaBitachon, the portals of trust. And the Rebbe would often refer people to study this. It's actually translated now in a beautiful English. And the Rebbe would encourage people to study from the Shar HaBitachon. So one way to build trust is to study this text, and more broadly, to be bound to the tree of life, the study of Chassidus. In other words, engage in day-to-day practices that strengthen our trust in Hashem, which is the study of Chassidus, regular study of bringing God into your consciousness, into your awareness in your life, helps us be more conscious of God, and in turn helps us build our trust, and to participate frequently in a Chassidic Farbrengen. A Chassidic Farbrengen is when Chassidim get together, they gather, we say a little L'chaim, we sing some songs, and somebody shares words of inspiration to staying plugged in and connected in the practices of Judaism and the more subtle dimensions of relationship with God and so on. With genuine Chassidic joy, to be happy and to make others happy. Okay, now, the Rebbe continues. Since you have moved into your new apartment, the thing that to do would be to organize a Chassidic Farbrengen there, truly and properly to recall the good old days when a Chassid at a Farbrengen would speak candidly without hesitating to consider what this one or that one would say, or what his own left side or right side would say. A Chassid only knew that a Chassidic Farbrengen, listening to a discourse of Chassidus or a Chassidic Vart, or an anecdote about one of our Rebbes, lights a man up, and a little light dispels a great deal of darkness. So the Rebbe is saying is that maybe the Chassidic Farbrengens have kind of deviated from what they were intended to be. A Chassidic Farbrengen is like it's like group therapy. It's like holy group therapy, where people talk openly about what they're struggling with, and they hear words of inspiration and words of love that help lift a person up, and you walk out of a Chassidic Farbrengen having brought in some light into the world, and that light helps dispel a lot of darkness. The Rebbe says, why should one think about darkness? Let's think more about light. In other words, the melancholy that you're experiencing is coming from a negative place. Focus on positivity, focus on light, especially now when we are at a time at which the first tablets of the law were given, because this letter was written right after the holiday of Shavuos, when we commemorate the revelation at Sinai and the giving of the tablets, and interpreting the phrase engraved charus on the tablets on the non-literal level called derush. The sages taught, do not read charus engraved, read cherus, freedom. So the Torah tells us that the Ten Commandments were charus, they were engraved on the tablets. The same letters for the word charus, engraved, can also be read cherus, which means freedom, meaning that through the tablets, we are freed from the negativity in our lives. Through the tablets and what the tablets represent, the Torah and a relationship with God, we are freed from the negativity that we experience in our own lives. May it be God's will that your new apartment exemplify the adage that he who changes his place changes his fortune. It's a beautiful teaching in from our rabbis, from the Talmud, that one mishana makkah, mishana maza, one who changes their place changes their fortune. And there's a lot of meaning to that, but in a general sense, when one physically relocates their home, it changes their fortune in a positive way, in a good direction. May your home be a warm home and a happy home filled with a commandment that is a lamp and the Torah that is a light. It says, Kiner mitzvah, the Torah are. Commandments are a lamp and Torah is light. So your home should be filled with the fulfillment of the commandments and the study of Torah. So the light that dispels the darkness is upon you to engage in yourself by bringing mitzvah and Torah into your home. May it be filled with the luminary within the Torah, the teachings of Chassidus and the spiritual lifestyle of Chassidus and the customs of Chassidim, and you should hold a Chassidic farbrengen there from time to time. Again, the idea is, what are you invested in? What are you surrounding yourself with? If you're surrounding yourself with negativity and negative people and negative books and negative stuff, then you're going to be negative. But if you surround yourself with positive people, positive engagement, Torah, mitzvahs, which are filled with light, and the warm environment of Chassidim and Chassidic gatherings, then you're going to be refined. You're going to be more in touch with your core, which is the soul, the neshama, the relationship with God. And when the Yetzer Hara, when the evil inclination brings up melancholy thoughts, we're going to dismiss it immediately because we're plugged into a positive environment. I look forward to hearing glad tidings regarding an improvement in your frame of mind and to hearing that at long last, even if only as an unenthused assumption of responsibility, you have because that's a starting point. At least you start with doing it because it's the right thing to do. And then eventually the feelings come as well, that you have undertaken, that henceforth you will fulfill the Torah's command that one should serve God with joy and with a gladsome heart. So this is a very powerful letter for us to internalize when we are feeling negative, when we're beginning the initial bubbling up of negativity, to immediately shift away from there into a positive space and to in general gather and put ourselves in an environment of positivity where we can really truly be more refined, more plugged in, more connected spiritually, and then the negativity doesn't last very long. We don't entertain it, and we stay positive and plugged in with Hashem. Have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos.